Hey, welcome to Bits of the Past Gaming. Making another video here. This is going to be top 10 tips for video game collecting and what I've learned throughout the year that I've been seriously collecting. Now, granted, it's only been a year, but I've learned a lot within that year, and I've had some headaches and some heartaches through my journey of video game collecting so far, and I wanted to impart some knowledge onto anyone who's just becoming a video game collector, or you might want to become a collector in the future. These are some things I've learned through my experience and my research, so I'd like to impart them onto anyone who's listening. So we'll go through the top 10 list, and there's no specific order to this. You can pick and choose, what's more important to you, but this is a list of 10 things that I thought of that you should probably know if you're getting into video game collecting. So we'll get started, and the first one is know what you want to collect. When I first started collecting, I wanted to collect everything. I just wanted everything that I grew up with in my childhood, and I quickly learned that it's not going to work. It's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to be hard to gather everything for every system. It's going to be hard to hunt down everything for every system and be able to afford it and pay for it. So what I learned early on is you got to kind of narrow what you want to collect and why you want to collect it. Now, I just wanted every video game console that I could possibly get my hands on, and I've got probably 20 plus systems right now, if you count handhelds, and I quickly gave up on that because just when you start getting into some of the systems, they're just so expensive, and even if they're not expensive, they're just hard to get a hold of and get a hold of in good condition, and I'm very big on condition. So if I see something I really like but the condition isn't right, I'll pass on it because there's something with me. I need really good condition for my games. I don't collect loose carts either because I just don't like loose carts. I know it's a lot cheaper, but for me personally, I would rather have the full complete version. But to know what you want to collect, so I started collecting. I did make the mistake of trying to collect for everything. So I do have, small bits for every system, but I never really got focused until I started collecting for the Xbox 360, and I now have about 165 games for the 360. So it really helped me when I narrowed down what I needed to go after, to be able to go to a game store or thrift store or flea market and get 360 games, because I had that on my mind. I had my phone app where I could put all the games that I've gotten, so I would know what I'm doing. The problem I run into a lot is if I'm out and about and I run across video games, or if I go to a video game store, a lot of times I'll forget what I already purchased, and I'll end up purchasing another copy of it thinking that I don't have it, only to get back home and have the copy, and then I'm left with two copies. So then I gotta either decide to keep it or sell it off so I can get something else. So definitely stay narrow in your search. Pick what system you like the most, what you remember the most from your childhood, or what you want to play that you never got a chance to. And my advice is to stick with a specific one. And then once you start getting all the titles that you want and you want to go to something else, just pick up for the next system and start fresh again. But definitely narrow the search. So on to number two. Number two, we have know your stuff. So when you're collecting, you want to know everything that you can about what you're collecting. So if you're collecting for Genesis, you want to know all about Genesis and Genesis games. You want to know, how they were packaged, what they look like. You have to know the difference between the first run booklets and the second run booklets, which I learned. The colorful booklets usually came with the first run, and the non-colorful ones came with the second run. So depending what you want, you'll have to know what you're looking at. Also, you'll want to know, what the fair price is for it. So knowing the price on the item that you're collecting for is also highly helpful, because I have paid more than I should have for things early on because I wasn't really aware of the pricing. So I would just go out and be like, oh, that looks nice, and I'd buy it, only to come to find out later that it was, $5, $10 more than, what the going rate is for it. So it's really helpful to just do a quick eBay search or Amazon search, or even the phone app that I use will tell you what the going price is on a game, because you don't want to get hosed. And also, when I go out and hunt down games, it's nice to find a good deal and be like, oh, that game's worth $20 and they have it for 10, and I'll scoop it up. So it's good to know what you're collecting, and that includes, any differences. You have variant covers. I know for 360, the game Catherine has a variant cover. I have the variant cover, and it's just good to know that there are differences in the items that you're trying to collect. Definitely know your stuff and know what you are collecting, or else you're just going to be out there wasting your time and money and effort on things that could have been easily avoided. So on to number 3, we have flea markets, yard sales, thrift shops, and friends. I cannot stress this enough. I've gotten so many things for cheap at flea markets. Flea markets have been a gold mine. Now lately, they've been kind of drying up. Of course, it's winter time here in the Northeast, so there's not a lot of activity going on at flea markets. But in the spring and summer that's coming up, it's going to be prime season to find some good hidden gems. A lot of times you'll find people that are selling things, they have no idea what they're worth. They've either found them in an attic, or their kid left them in their house, and they're just trying to, get some money for them. So you can get stuff for dirt cheap. I got a Sega Dreamcast for $10 at a flea market. It works perfectly fine. All I had to do was take it home, give it a little love on the cleaning, and it was good to go. I still use it today. Now, thrift stores can be a little tricky. Places like Goodwill, you have to know where their video game section is, or where they're holding their video games. You have to go pretty much every day if you're serious about hunting down games, or as often as you can go. You have to know times of day to go. Usually early in the morning. All the hunters are out there, so it's going to be harder to get a hold of items. Usually I like to go in the mid-afternoon when they've had time to stock things and there's not a lot of people in there scooping things up. And I've run into a lot of great items there and a lot of great games for really cheap. And you just have to know your way around. And it's definitely also wise to hit up yard sales. Yard sales, huge, especially spring, summertime, if you're in a different climate area. A lot of people just unloading stuff. Like I said, their kids left it in their house, or their kids will be selling their stuff they don't play with anymore. A lot of times they don't know what it's worth. They just want something for it. There are times where you run across people who have eBayed the prices, and you'll just know right away, and you can either try to haggle with them or just walk away and say, cut your losses. But yard sales, definitely another way to get cheap games. And you can also amount a good collection just buying bulk lots. Someone might have a whole box of Xbox games, and you can just offer them a price on the whole box. A lot of times they just want some money, and they'll part with the box for a lot less than they were originally planning for, making a better deal for you. So definitely want to check on flea markets and yard sales. And lastly, your friends. You'd be surprised at things I've run across just telling friends and coworkers that I'm a video game collector. You know, I collect all types of games from all generations, and you know, I've come across some great things and gotten some great deals through that as well. So it's another, you know, option outlet. So on to number 4. Don't pass on deals. A lot of times you'll be out, and I'm talking me personally as well, but I'm sure other people have done the same thing. You'll be out, you'll see something that has a really good deal, or you want it really bad, but you'll second guess yourself, or you'll say, I don't really want that, or I already have that, so even though it's on a good deal, I don't want it because I already have it. Why waste the money? But there's a lot of good to be found from that. You can buy the game on a good deal, and then you can flip it and sell it, you know, online or Facebook group or whatever. You can sell it to gain back extra money, so then you can get what you really do want. So if you see something that's a really good deal, don't pass it up. You should buy it. You can always flip it, like I said, if you don't want it or you don't want to keep it. And also, me personally, I'll pass on something only to regret it later that day or the next day. Be like, man, I really should have got that. It was a good deal. I just, you know, was being stingy, or I wasn't feeling it. But then I look back the next day and I'm like, you know, I should have got that. Cat, come on. Sorry about that. Now we have number 5. Number 5 is buy in bulk early. Something I wish I could have done is buy bulk early, meaning if you got to go on eBay or Craigslist or, you know, Facebook Marketplace or wherever, if you're just starting out collecting, I highly recommend buying in bulk. You'll get a lot of games for a lot less than you would pay individually, for the most part, and any excess games or doubles that you get out of that bulk lot, you can sell to someone else to recoup some of that money that you paid for the lot. So say you have 2 copies of Gears of War 4, or you find 3 copies of Silent Hill. You can sell those copies that you don't need to give you some money, and then you can use that money towards paying off the bulk lot or using it towards games that you really do want. But you can amass a big collection really quickly by buying a bulk lot, because you'll get a lot of those filler games that everyone dreads getting. You know, those games that aren't really worth anything, but are part of a collection. So bulk lots definitely a great opportunity early on. Once you get heavy into collecting, bulk lots usually aren't that efficient, because you'll end up selling a lot more than you keep. And to me, it's not really worth my time and energy to do that. I wish I would have done it a lot early on, especially with the 360 games. But you live and you learn, and that's why I'm making this video. So next we have number 6. Number 6 is find a community. Gamers like to talk about games, and they like to talk about games with other gamers because they appreciate the same hobby. If, you know, I play video games and this other guy plays video games, we have something in common. We can share our stories. We can talk about, you know, what we have, what we play, and then also you can find a lot of things through networking. And I found that Facebook is great for this, because there's a lot of Facebook groups that you can join. I'm on a game collecting group in my area, and I've found a lot of things on there and have gotten a lot of good deals. My cat is a pain in the ass. And it's just great to have other people that share the same interest. And like I said, you can find great things, and I highly recommend getting into a community or a group. Another thing that would be helpful is to go to conventions and expos, which was my number 7. Conventions and expos, another great place to run into people who are like-minded, other collectors, other sellers. You can find a lot of great things. So number 7 is conventions and expos. Just like for pretty much anything, you have Comic-Cons. There's also video game conventions where it's focused on video games. You can find a lot of good stuff there. You might not always get the greatest deals like you would at like flea market, but you'll be able to find things that you probably wouldn't find out in the wild, because there are a lot of things that are just hard to get a hold of. They've gotten lost in time, and a lot of people who've collected them don't want to get rid of them, so it becomes harder and harder to find these items. So that was number 7, kind of like led into from 6 to 7. So we'll go on to number 8, which is know what you have, which kind of tied into number 2, which was know your stuff. But this, I wanted to make its own thing because, like I said before, a lot of times I'll be out and I'll forget what I have in my collection. And there's been a few times where I've bought something thinking I didn't have it, but I really do. And I come home disappointed because I have 2 copies of something and I really didn't want to spend the money for it because I already had it, but I didn't know. So now I have an app on my phone, which is called GameEye. It's GAMEYE, GameEye, where you can put in everything that you have, all the games that you own. It'll store them for you. It'll catalog them. You can search for them by system. So when I'm out and about, I'll type in, original Xbox. It'll come up with all the games that I have for the original Xbox. That way I know what I have. So when I'm looking through games, I'm not like, oh, do I have this? I'll know because it's right on the app, and I won't be getting doubles and spending money that I could use for other things because I'll know that I already have them. So having that app is huge. It is free as well, so highly recommend checking that out. It also has prices on it. I'm not sure where the prices come from, but they tell you like an average ballpark of how much the games are going for right now. So you'll type in, you can search a game like Toe Jam and Earl. It'll come up and tell you how much just the cart is worth, how much the complete is worth, and how much a new sealed version is worth. So that's also a nice feature of that GameEye app. I'm not sponsored by them, but it's a really helpful app, and I use it, and it's good to track what I have. Highly recommend it. So we'll go on to number 9. Number 9 is something I found that is overlooked a lot when it comes to collecting tip videos, but I wanted to add it because it's very important, and that is proper care for your games. Meaning, you got to make sure you take care of your stuff that you're collecting. You want it to last a long time. You want to be able to play it for a long time. So you want to take care of it as best as you can. So when you get into the older things like Genesis, you have to learn how to clean the carts. You don't want to blow on them. It's a bad idea. Your spit is corrosive. It'll eat, and there goes my whole setup. It'll eat at your contacts. So you want to know and research how to clean these things properly. You also need to know, this is kind of a tangent, but you want to know about fakes too. So when you're in the process of learning how to clean, you'll probably run across how to spot fakes as well. By taking apart the carts, checking the chips, things like that. I know a lot of the save state games. I know Super Nintendo. I'm not too sure how many Sega games, but Super Nintendo A lot of times you have to replace the batteries in games that need saved. So like Zelda, you might have to replace the battery in there because it only lasts so long, and once the battery goes, you won't be able to save the game that you're playing. So, highly recommend learning how to clean and properly care for your items. Also, storing, you want to store them in a place that is, you know, not a volatile environment. I think I might make another video about this to get more in depth, but cleaning definitely number 9 on my list. It's not as exciting as collecting and going on the hunt for games, but something that is very essential if you want it to have longevity. And then lastly, number 10 is be patient. Collecting takes time. It takes a lot of money. So you don't want to just bull rush in there unless you have a ton of money at your disposal. Take it easy. Start slow. Slowly build up your collection. It might not look like much at first, but over time it'll build, and maybe even take pictures. Take a picture of where you're storing your games, and then a couple months later, take another picture. See your progress, and I think that might help you. I know when I started, I kind of went head first, spent a lot of money, and that I probably should have just, waited and been more patient. Lately, I've been a lot more patient and just let things happen. There'll be certain times when I go out specifically hunting. Other times it'll just be whenever I come across something. But just be patient. For me, I'm a completionist. Like I said, I don't want just carts. I want the whole package. So a lot of times I have to be very patient and wait till I come across something that is in good condition and is complete. Because a lot of times you'll find things that are missing a manual, or the cart is messed up, or it's just the cart, or something like that. So you have to be patient and just wait till you get the right thing for you. If you just want to collect carts, then maybe you want the best labels on the carts as possible. So you might have to wait till you find one that's in really good condition and pass on ones that are so-so or in bad condition. So be patient and budget. Make sure you don't spend your rent money on games. You have to prioritize. Video game collecting is expensive, and the older the system gets, the more expensive usually the games are for it. So depending what you're collecting, Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, the games are very expensive. PlayStation 2 games are starting to get very, very expensive. Sega slowly starting to creep up there. So just know that it's not a race, and have fun with collecting. You want to be able to enjoy the ride. Buy a few games, then go home and take some time to play them before you go and buy something else, or wait till you find a really good deal before you buy a game, and make sure that it's what you want and how you want your collection to go. So just be mindful of that. I will end the video now. It's been long enough. This is the top 10 tips. One love.